Hey everyone, Carlos Vargas here. Thank you for visiting the firsttimehomebuyertools.com website. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, thank you for coming back. Our site is dedicated to me interviewing some amazing real estate agents, loan officers, mortgage closing attorneys, folks who you should probably reach out to if you're thinking about buying or free financing your home. And my guest today is Trip Miller from Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Trip, thanks for coming out.
Carlos, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming out. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Carlos, my name is Trip Miller. I work for a company called Guaranteed Rate. We are a direct mortgage lender in all 50 states, and I am a loan officer in the business for 10 years approximately at this point in time.
Great, great. What did you do before coming into the mortgage business? Did you work for another mortgage company or a bank? Or?
Prior to this company here, I worked for Wells Fargo Bank, and I was in the banking side of the business for the bulk of my career. And then in the past 2.5, 3 years, I've moved over to Guaranteed Rate in 2012, and we're a direct lender. We're what's called a correspondent lender. So I do have a banking background prior to just the direct lending part.
And what made you get into the direct lending part? What made you get into the mortgage end of things? Just you wanted some freedom? You thought the income was better, or just a better opportunity?
As my business grew, I was limited, I felt, a little bit in the banking side. So in our world, what happens is, it's at the bank, you can do what the bank can do. So whatever Wells could do, I could do, but I couldn't do other things. So sometimes the banks say, we're comfortable with this amount of risk or not. But then and what happens in my business is you need to be flexible and agile and try to be able to help customers in different spots. So the correspondent lending side allows me to have more product mix, actually lower rates, our costs are lower, we're more agile, we're more nimble, and we control our situation and our process better, which ultimately is better for our clients.
Great, great. And you just do business in Massachusetts or a few more states?
That's a great question. So I've always practiced in all 50 states as far as from an expertise point of view. So I have experience through my entire career of closing loans in all 50. I carry my current personal licenses technically in New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. But my company is situated in all 50 states, and I am still able to handle loans and process loans in all 50 states.
That's great. That's great. So if anybody's looking at buying a home outside the state, Trip would be a great avenue for you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I often tell my clients, you know, if you're thinking second home, or if you're thinking investment property, or we have a lot of folks here who are snowbirds who go to Florida, down on the eastern corridor, East Coast states. We do a lot of second homes there. I've got folks out west, and I'm from down south originally, actually, in case you hear my accent. And so I do loans for family and friends and home too.
Great. Tell me about one of your successes, somebody that you perhaps, and I know that there are many, I'm sure, because you deal with a lot of clients, somebody that you thought, or they thought, they would never be able to get into the home buying process, maybe because of a past blemish or something.
Sure. So I have a very current example that's actually closing tomorrow on a home where is he? He's on the South Shore, and we're closing in Marshfield. And he is a veteran. I am a military certified loan officer and have concentrated on VA loans for a good portion of my career. This particular individual is a veteran and served our country as a Marine until 2009. He's a 100% disabled veteran, actually, and we started working together the beginning of 2014. And his situation at the time, because of his disability specifically, his situation was such that his employment has been on and off. And so he does receive a lot of disability from his VA benefit as well as some Social Security disability. He is able to actually work, but because of his disability from the being in service, it's been inconsistent. And so we were introduced and have been working together since the beginning of last year, where we started to put together a purchase, but it was going to be difficult, to be honest with you, due to the income, things of this nature. He ran into some other personal things, and come full circle, the beginning of this year, we brought back together, and it's been a work in progress, I have to admit. Not the easiest loan in the world, but you know, I get the most pride out of putting people in their homes, especially their first homes, which is what this is. And we're closing tomorrow on a VA loan for this individual.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Zero down, 100% financing. It's about a $375,000 house, which is about the middle price point, I guess, for our world. But it's a very good success story, and that here's an individual who definitely deserves it, utilizing his VA benefit, 100% financing, can afford the payment, no problem, but is basically getting into the home for just a portion of his closing costs, call it $3,000 or $4,000, and we're closing tomorrow. And it's a great success story because it's a work in progress for well more than a year at this point. And for somebody, he's married, has 2 children, and is living at home with mom and stuff, and he's an adult and he's ready to needs to be in his own home.
Sure, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing that he's able to get into a home thanks to you. Tell me about something that you've learned that you wish you knew back when you first purchased your first home. Something that you've learned since then that you would have done this before that, or
right. That's a great question. I think often I'll comment on that, which is part of my interest in getting into the business was some of the interest for me is that this is a part of life, right? Mortgages are one of those. It's one of those learning things. A lot like what you do, insurance. You don't know anything about insurance when you're 18 and getting going to college, but eventually you find you need it. And I'm a father of 2 children, 12 and 6, and life insurance and these things that you do. And so anyway, it's one of those building blocks of life that you learn. So when I, of course, like anyone else out there, I didn't know anything about loans when I did my first loan, and I wasn't actually in the mortgage business either at that point in time. I think to answer your question, knowing where to start, looking back in hindsight, and knowing the barrier to entry is information, and knowing where to get the information or who to go to effectively. Because in our business, I find that so many times it's not a question of the desire to want to buy a home or to need a loan for whatever purpose. It could be a refinance, I guess, if you're not talking a purchaser. But nevertheless, that when you're talking specifically first-time buyers, especially, the fear of flying. Where do you go? Who do you turn to? And how do you ask the first questions? Where did you start from there? And that's the part for me that originally I didn't really know, and I never had anyone to really guide me with that and such.
So do you advise your current clients to go to these home buying programs, go to these city-sponsored states? Is that something that you would advise somebody to go to?
I think any education is good, and I believe very confidently in the first-time homebuyer programs, Quincy community housing. Personally speaking, I spent a lot of my earlier part of my career doing a lot of the first-time homebuyer classes at the community development level. I used to go into Brockton often and do a lot of first-time homebuyer seminars and certificates. There are still first-time homebuyer programs and loan programs we do. Mass Housing comes to mind. It's a quasi first-time buyer program. There's a Fannie Mae My Community Loan, which is also, there's Home Possible, which is a Freddie Mac's version of and all of those require first-time homebuyer certificates. And if you're buying a multifamily, they also require a landlord certificate, meaning you go through a small portion of learning how to manage be a landlord. Because those are income-producing properties. And so certainly for people who are first-time buyers, whether they actually utilize that certificate in the loan program they go with or they do not, that kind of information can be invaluable, and I definitely advocate for them, for sure.
Great. And so depending on all those programs out there, that's going to let our viewers know how much money they need to put down. What's a realistic down payment? If you were talking to your son who's now 22 or 24, 12 going to, what would you say? Hey, bud, you need to have 5% down. You need to have an emergency fund. What's your advice?
Well, okay. So the most direct answer is it's possible to put 0 down. So we start with 0. The VA has a 0 down. If you don't happen to be a vet, which is quite a few people, then there is still a 0 down. It's called USDA, Guaranteed Rural Housing. It does not apply in Dorchester Central, inside the 128 corridor. It's not going to happen because it is a guaranteed rural housing program. So it's based upon the MSA, which is Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is a census tract, and it's based on population density. And so, for example, I live on the South Shore. I live in Pembroke, and Pembroke's zip code is 02359, and that zip code is eligible. Marshfield's eligible, parts of it. Duxbury's eligible. Lots of the Cape is eligible.
For the rural.
Is considered rural. So you'd be surprised where rural is. But it is a 0% down program.
Yeah.
And so technically, the answer to your question is you can buy with nothing down.
Okay.
Assuming you don't fit into one of those two categories, the first demarcation point is 3%.
Okay.
That's the easy answer. Mass housing's 3%. Fannie Mae allows for a 3% down payment on their loan programs. The next step up is an FHA loan at 3.5%. And then the default mechanism is 5%.
Okay.
So 5 is kind of like the conforming vanilla, what most
Sure.
clients, people maybe listening, would think of as a conventional loan. You really want to probably be thinking 5%.
Okay, great. I'm thinking about purchasing a home in the next 6 months or a year, right? Go through the home buying class, kind of get as much knowledge as I can. When should I reach out to you or another loan professional? When's a good time to get you folks involved?
Well, that's the golden question. So I always tell people it's never too early to look, right? So, the reason I say it is this: the lending world today is very strict as far as guidelines are concerned, for a good reason, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? The credit part, I guess, of your profile for as far as qualification, right? Not just your score. Lots of people think of credit as, oh, my credit score is 700, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Yes and no. You can have, I see people with credit scores of 700, but that they have maybe a judgment or they have a lien or something on their credit that's public record, or we see current activity that is related to maybe a mortgage payment. You can you could have a late payment and still have credit that is technically qualifiable, but you might not be qualifiable because of what's on your credit in general. So I do have people come to me that are referred to me that think I'm good, and they go pull credit and find out, lo and behold, there's something here that is prohibitive or a problem.
Yeah.
And this is not just folks who are maybe moderate credit folks. I've had people that are well-to-do, well-qualifiable, high-income folks who just think I'm good,
right,
and find out they had identity theft, for example, and didn't know it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? There's no workaround in the mortgage today.
Yeah.
It is black and white from that perspective. So until that is gone, there's no, well, that's not me, and getting out of it. It needs to be fixed.
Before you can get into the process.
Correct. So there's never really a point in time where it's too early
Okay.
to at least profile it.
Okay.
We can pull the credit.
Yeah.
I can look at it. I'm a credit expert.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 10 years. I look at credit all the time. It's part of every loan we do.
You can advise a person what they need to get cleaned up and.
Correct. I credit counsel. I'm handy with all of it to the extent that it becomes a big challenge, at which point I have some folks that I can refer to help with credit if you really truly have credit repair issues that are ongoing. So your question was, how early to look at it? Well, if you're somebody maybe looking to buy in 6 months or even a year, the answer is it's still okay to look at it now.
Okay. So
because what if we catch something that it might not be a question of you qualifying, but what if it's a question of your rate being a half point better?
Yeah. Right.
So it might not be a
More
qualification
house you can
issue,
buy,
but it might be more home you can afford, or it might in less payment, affordability, better for your family. Sometimes that's the case. I can say, look, pay off this portion of your debt. It's going to increase your credit score. With that credit score increase, you're going to get a subsequent rate drop, which is going to save you $150 a month.
Right.
About $50 a month is worth about $10,000 on the loan.
Okay.
So it might be the difference of $30,000 in purchasing power, taking you from $250 to $280.
Sure.
Or something like that.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe a nicer home or whatever, more amenities and stuff. Yeah.
Sure.
Or
how about a little more spending money at the end of the day?
Right. End of the day, a little more put in the bank. Your advice on if somebody's looking to hire a professional to help them with their mortgage or refi, how should they find someone? Do they Google someone? Where you've worked at Wells, now you're at Guaranteed Rate, what's the best way to find a mortgage professional to work with? Do you ask for referrals from friends and family? Do you just leave it up to who you saw at the home buying class?
That's a obviously great question. I'm a referral-based person.
Okay.
So let's start with this. The bulk of my business is from realtors and past clients. And quite frankly, probably the most of my referrals are for past, happy, satisfied clients. That's my best referral. and it's really where the bulk of my business comes from.
Okay.
The next line of defense would be my realtor partners.
Okay.
And then, of course, moving in the chain of what we do, we're also working with attorneys.
Yeah.
We're working with insurance folks like yourself.
Yeah.
Potentially anybody in that chain or in our sphere of influence in life is a referral partner.
Sure.
I think that the part of the question you're asking is, where would you go? I would avoid, where wouldn't I go? I would avoid just a simple online, what I call a cubicle type lender.
Okay.
Meaning, I won't name names.
Sure, we know. Yeah.
But you go online and you click on, and the first thing that pops up is call this 1-800 number, and you're calling to Texas and getting somebody on the phone, and they're just going to take an application. Yeah. They're not really going to be a mortgage professional. They're going to be more of an application taker.
So an order taker.
An order taker who's going to, in theory, take a solid application and then pass it on and hope for an approval. If you back up a little bit and you look at our world today and the complexity of this business, and you want success, meaning you want to close, and you want to close on time, and with as least impact as possible. This is not a completely impactless business, but you are going to have a certain amount of work you do as a borrower if you're going to buy a home.
Yeah.
And you're going to provide paperwork, and you're going to be asked for some things that you're not asked for every day.
Yeah.
So you need to expect that. But you also expect to close. And I find sometimes today, a lot of my referrals come over from folks who were unsuccessful in being able to close because they picked up the phone and called somebody on the line who, not to take anything away from that person at the other end of the phone, but personally speaking, I'm a 100% commission-based person.
Sure.
I'm a father of two, and I'm the sole breadwinner of my home. Yeah. And whether I close a loan or not is dependent on whether I eat at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And so, because of that, it behooves me to be at the top of my game as far as my expertise level, my return on phone calls, my service level with my clients. All of those things play into my part, which is being an expert at what I do. Right. And so the hope would be that if you go possibly through a personal referral source, somebody you trust, your attorney or your realtor, maybe a friend at work or a colleague, something of this nature, who's tied in with the right mortgage person, you will at least potentially get a referral to someone who is, like myself, a consummate professional expert.
Right. And if you get the feeling that you're not dealing with a professional, then you probably should walk away and go to somebody who does do it full time.
Yeah, you call me.
Yeah, call Trip. What's your favorite part of your day? What do you love doing the most?
My favorite part of my day is making the phone call to tell the client that they're cleared to close on their loan. Yeah. And being able to produce them the final, what's called the HUD, which is like a receipt, if you will. That's how I define it to my clients. This is your receipt for the purchase. It's the numbers. It's the thing you probably are almost the most concerned about, other than just closing. Would be the figures. And that is probably the best part of my day, is being able to make that phone call and say, Mr. Vargas, you're clear to close. Your closing's in a week. We're ahead of the game. It's all set. Let me go through these numbers with you. You'll recall we went through this at the beginning. This is what it looks like now. It's exactly what I said or better. And congratulations to you and your family, and I'll see you at close.
Yeah, that's a good feeling, right? Getting somebody into their home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. And I don't know, let me ask this. What are you reading right now that you'd like to share? Anything that, or what's your favorite food? Which one of these two questions would you like to answer?
What about reading?
Answer one of two.
I'll start with the food part. I think pizza.
Pizza
is probably, if I have to think, it's either pizza or anything I cook on my grill.
Yeah, same here. Burn the protein.
Anything on the grill would be great.
Yeah.
As far as reading goes, I read less for enjoyment these days, and I read more for business purposes these days, quite frankly. So I actually spend a lot of time online doing more of the blog and journal type reading. So nothing in particular is coming to mind.
No book,
But as far as data goes, I'm always following, current events. Greece comes to mind, things of this nature. So I'm more in that world today, following the financial world, because it impacts what I do on a daily basis. It
impacts us all, I think, right? We're all around the money, right?
Of course it does.
So what do you like cooking on the grill? What's your favorite food?
I'm all over. I will cook pizza on my grill. I have a big green egg. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. But I have my big egg.
The charcoal gas model?
No, this is just charcoal. Lump charcoal only. So I do everything from pizza, roll my own dough on there, to I do a lot of low and slow type of pork butt.
Yeah. Lots of butts.
I'll do steaks. I'll do all the regulars, chickens and things. I do ribs regularly.
Nice.
Nice. Both pork and beef. Anything of that nature. So I do all my. Plus, I do all my accoutrements. So I do do a really nice Fra Diablo scallop on the grill.
On the grill.
Also, yes.
On the green egg.
On the green egg.
Wow.
All my corn. I do a lot of mushroom saute, a lot of asparagus on the grill, a lot of my veggies.
Great time of the year for those veggies, right?
Yeah.
Asparagus season's probably almost at the end, but it's over.
Corn's coming up though.
Yeah, exactly.
So corn's been really good.
Yeah.
So I'll do the entire meal on the grill, and I'm the cook in the family too.
Are you really?
So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my family is fortunate that I am not, because I would throw everything on the grill. Soup and all, try to get a pot on there.
I grew up in the kitchen down south with grandmothers, and both of whom are still alive. They're both 93 and 91, I think. And I grew up in the kitchen with everybody, and they all cooked, and I just learned to cook.
Yeah. So it's a great knowledge to have for life, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your friendship and your referrals and everything that you do for us. And it's funny, we've dealt with Tripp's referrals for the last 2 or 3 years, and they all love him. If you look him up on Zillow, he's got 100 reviews, all 5-star. He does an amazing job. So I'm hoping that thank you. I'm hoping that if you're looking to buy or refinance a home, that you reach out to my friend Tripp. And if you think that this video is well worth watching, hopefully you share it with your friends or anybody who's looking to do the same. And I thank you for watching our video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.
And let me add, you can get me at www.trip.miller.com. TRIPMILLER.
trip.miller.com. All of his contact information will be in the show notes of the video and the podcast. Look for the podcast version to drop soon. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was a pleasure. Great. This is great.